This is the guy that we love talking to. With his pregame salutations, let's bring in the coach, John Salavanis. Coach, what's going on?
Hey, Bubba, nice to talk to you. And Mike, Daly, it's good seeing you on there.
I appreciate it, Coach. It's good to hear from you.
Let me throw this to you, and I mean, this is going to be an obvious question, Coach Sal. Why is a meeting between the Ticats and the Double Blue so different than the rest?
Well, it's because of the fans. You guys were talking about it earlier. You know, the fans will travel to Toronto and fill that stadium for them. Now, when we play back at Tim Hortons Field, the very polite Toronto crowd will show up, maybe a few of them, but it's all about the fans.
Hey, and Coach, going off the fans and kind of this rivalry that's going on, is how do you feel these players and coaches as well approach this 4-game stretch with the Argos, right? The 4 and 5 weeks. Does it add to a little bit? What are they trying to do in this first game to maybe get an edge in these next few games? What do you see happening on that field?
Well, this is not the first time that this has happened. 88, 89, 91, there were 4 games against Toronto. But this is the fastest turnaround time between the games. The 5-week span has never been done before. But realistically, what I think you want to do is you want to throw everything you can at them in that first game. Give them everything and anything to think about, including your special teams, with a fake here or a fake there. But play the game wide open on your first one and see if you can't get an edge on it.
You know, John, you coached for over 3 decades. I mean, and players are going to be players, and they're always going to be excited for the beginning of the game. But when you're talking about these kind of rivalry games, do you kind of have to remind them not to get too jacked up?
Yeah, you do. You really have to control your own emotions in the game. And, in this particular game against Toronto, this is very, very important. Penalties could decide this ball game. And Toronto has been notorious for making the objectionable conduct type penalty, where Hamilton has been very conservative in that area. Now, you got the chirper coming back. Simone will be on the field, and he'll get in the head of whomever wants to get close to him. So, to me, you just tell the players, play as hard as you possibly can. But when there is a situation, walk away from it, turn your back to it, and don't get one of those penalties that can hurt us.
Yeah, Coach, I want to move to the Ticats O-line because I think they've been doing a really good job as of late protecting Dane. I want to go to somebody specifically, Travis Vornkall, who has now played from tackle, moved inside to a guard. Now he's back outside as a tackle doing well. But it's going to face a guy like Jaguar Davis and Shane Ray. Is that difficult to go from the outside, back to the inside, back to the outside, playing a bunch of different positions, and now have to face 2 guys like Jaguar Davis and Shane Ray? Or is it just another day at the office for Travis?
Well, it won't be another day at the office for sure, because the 2 guys you mentioned, Ray and Davis, are excellent outside rushers. So he's got to be on his toes, as does Kelly on the other side. But to answer your question specifically, it's not overly difficult to move inside and then move back outside. It's all a matter of your mindset. If I'm the tackle, then I've got to protect my quarterback's backside. If I'm the guard, I've got to do a whole different look at the tree technique, perhaps, and set shorter in the middle. You guys talked about the middle pressure. Middle pressure is what the quarterback cannot contend with, because it's very difficult for him, as Mike was talking about, get the ball away if you got pressure in your face.
Well, and let's go to that offensive and defensive line matchup and the pressure that the Tiger-Cats can actually put on McLeod, Bethel, Thompson. And as I said with Mike, I'm kind of seeing some gelling there. And we were very critical of them not getting pressure earlier in the season. But these guys are really coming on there, Coach Sal.
Bubba, I think you're absolutely right. You know, and with the heat and humidity today, this game is going to be won up front. Now, Hamilton's gone and dressed 8 defensive linemen, and rotating those players will be key to an effective pass rush. You can't wear your guys down, especially Micah Johnson and Dylan Wynn on the inside. Be able to put your rotation together to where Teddy Laurent gets in that ball game and make some rest time for those guys to keep the rush very fresh. Toronto has not got a super offensive line. They're a very average, very young offensive line, and I expect that those players that we mentioned on the defensive line have to get pressure immediately. Now, expect Toronto to go to that quick passing game and to rely on their run game to help that O-line that we're talking about. But the front 4 guys, we need a big game from those guys.
Yeah, and with moving back over to the Argos D-line, do you foresee, a lot of shilts and a lot of 2-back situations to try to help that offensive line with, the Shane Ray, the Jaguar Davis, and especially inside Sean Oakman? Or is it kind of the, try to get the ball out, be yourselves as the Ticat offense? How do you foresee them trying to deal with this Argos D-line as we were talking about?
Well, I think initially as you start the ball game, you've already scripted the plays that you want to go. If those plays go well, then you can continue in that fashion. But like you said, if that's not the case, then Schultz comes in and you bring an extra man in the backfield, Burt, to help the blocking situation. As long as they can protect Dane Evans, I think you stay with Dane Evans, and then you make the change-up when you bring Schultz in, maybe for a short yardage play, and then keep them in the ball game for a series after that.
Coach, we kind of talked offense, defense, and let's talk special teams, which we don't always do a lot of. It's always kind of the forgotten element of the football game and game planning and such in terms of the fans, I guess. But Michael Domagala had 3 tackles last game, and he's the punter. That can't happen.
Good for him for making the tackles, but you're right, that can't happen. You've got to have your cover team down the field do a great job, and I expect that they'll put Banks back there as the punt returner in most situations. So we know what Speedy B can do, so the cover teams have to be right on top of their game tonight.
Yeah, and especially sticking with the special teams, these 2 teams, the Argos and Hamilton, they are the best punt return teams in the league right now. So do you feel that that's a big aspect that we need to win in order for the field position to go on our side and ultimately win this game? Or do you feel that, Lawrence Woods and the Speedy Banks matchup is one of the main ones to focus on?
Well, both teams, Mike, are slow starters. In the 6 games Toronto's played, they've only scored 10 points in the first quarter, and they have 0 TDs. So, as you play this game, Toronto has started worst in the league as far as field position. I think you've got to keep them in that position. They were starting on their 30-yard line or less more times than any other team in the league. So if your punt team can keep them down there, special teams will have played a big part in the early going of the game.
Coach, last one to you here. There was a lot of doom and gloom after the first 4 weeks of the season, which I said off the top of the program here. Are you surprised to see this team sort of kind of improving on all aspects of the game, winners of 2 of their last 3, and an opportunity right now at saying we're in first place?
Bubba, it's always the same situation when you start slow. If you make a lot of changes, it creates anxiety within your group. I think Coach O has done a great job of keeping the game plans and the personnel with as minimum change as can be. And you see that in the defensive secondary especially. You've got a secondary that's done such a great job going into this ball game. So, I think if you look at it, and Mike's very important in this idea. There's 8 interceptions in our secondary, but there's 27 knockdowns, and that means those guys back there are playing very close to their players and playing very smart in the way they're playing.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of going to be what's key, because you look at this Argos offense, and they are going to rely on their receivers big time. They have a lot of playmakers all over the field, especially a Canadian kid, Curly Gittins Jr., who, Coach, when was the last time that you've seen a Z receiver, or the widest receiver to the field side, lead teams in targets, receptions, yards after catch? What does that do to this Ticats defense in order for them game planning this? Because you just don't see that.
No, you don't, but you're thinking in terms of where the ball was placed in past years. Now with the hash marks changed, the wide receiver per se, the guy on the farthest outside of the field, is much closer to the quarterback, so he can get the ball to him. Now you've got to be alert for what Bethel Thompson likes to do. The coach will call all the plays, but he likes to throw on time and short, and that's where the quick game comes in. But he will also go deep on you. He's got 5 TDs of 20-plus yards already going into this game. So your secondary, and especially Tune Delicate back there, has got to be very aware of those guys that can take the top off that defense.
Coach Sal, we certainly adore having you on our pregame show. Thank you again for your thoughts, your opinions. You're even game planning there. I love it.
I'll talk to you again, Bubba. Take care.